Hey guys, welcome once again to this channel. Welcome to Sage City. It's been a while we recorded, so therefore I know a lot of you have been waiting for the part 2 on this video. Alright guys, before we get any further, kindly note that I am not an immigration consultant. So whatever information you'll be seeing here is based on my personal research. So I advise you to do your research. Whenever in doubt, reach out to a licensed immigration consultant, and that's it. So everything I'm going to be giving you in this video is pretty much based on my research and what I've done and what I've done for others. So just personal stuff. That's it. If you're just watching this channel for the very first time, you're most welcome. This is a series on how to actually make an application for a study permit along with the TRV. So what we're going to do here is we're going to simply step into this part 2, in which I'll be showing you how to actually make the application for your study permit and a temporary residency visa. In part 1, if you haven't watched that, check the link up above here. We went over how to actually create your account on the IRCC portal, and the part 2 is supposed to be a continuation of that. So if you haven't watched that, don't start with this. Just go click that link and get acquainted before you come over here and continue. Now, if you enjoy this type of content and you want more like this, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out when I post more videos like this. And yeah, share these videos with your friends and drop a like while at it. Thank you so much. It really helps out to support the channel, and it's free. Thank you. Take care. See you in the video. Bye bye. It says on the screen, you'll be asked to upload the documents for your application. Please don't use your browser's navigation buttons back and forward. It's warning us not to use this button over here, back and forward, as they will not work properly within this application. So avoid it. Don't use it on your browser and don't use it on your mouse either. So please don't. All right, so step 1. It says you must log into your own account to submit an application. You cannot use another person's account, first and foremost. 2, it says if you select the exit button, your information will be saved, and you return to the account homepage. So, okay, instead of reading this is just so long, I'll just read the steps. First one, so use your account. Second one, save your application. Third one, upload your document. Finally, pay your fees. So it means it's a 4-step process to completing the application. And yeah, there's a lot of stuff to read here. So please read all of this on your account. It's just telling us about like the documents we're going to be uploading, PDFs, and the different formats that are allowed and all of that. So be sure to read it so you're well informed. So once you're done reading this, I've read this in the past, so click continue. Yeah, and it's going to take us to the next part where we will start our application. Finally, awesome. So this is the application page, and this is exciting. Like finally we get to start our actual application. Like we get to the forms, so filling out the forms for the application. And so while we are here looking at this, let's just look at the very top. It says this is the list of documents you need to submit in order to apply, right? It means that these documents are important and mostly non-negotiable. So it says you cannot proceed until each file has been uploaded. And then it says you select the question mark button and learn about each document, right? That is definitely an important one. So yeah, there's a bit more information here. So you're just going to scroll down, and this is what we're going to talk about. We have this different sections here. We have the application forms. It means these are forms that you're going to have to fill yourself. And then we have the supporting documents, right? These are documents you're going to have to provide. And we have the optional documents, and then you have the fees, right? So it costs $150 for the student permit, and it costs $85 for your biometrics fee. So everything together is going to cost you $235 to submit your application. So I'm just going to go through these documents and tell you a thing or two about exactly what these documents are and how you can position yourself to make a strong application now that we're finally at this point. So this is like the golden moment where your application can be made or marred. So you want to pay attention as to how exactly you are making this application. So the first thing we have here, we have a form under the application forms, right? And it says, yeah, there's a document here we can download. So I'm going to try to download this form, and I'll try to open it up. Yeah. So I have, let's see if it's going to open up over here. It's telling us, okay, first and foremost, I must tell you that the PDF documents that are available on the Canada government's website are only accessible with like a proper PDF document viewer. You can't you typically view it with your browser. So if you open it on your browser, you probably see some gibberish, some text that just tells you to get a PDF reader, and they recommend Adobe or something like that. All right. So here we have the document. We're going to open this document through Adobe Reader. Remember what I said, this document is not one you can open with your browser. It's not going to show up properly. So I'm just going to go ahead and download it by clicking this button. All right, with that done, let's get the document and open it up. I have gone ahead to download the Acrobat Reader. That's the Adobe Acrobat Reader. So I've got that, and I've opened this document. And the document we're talking about here is the IMM 1294. So I have that document right here, as you can see. So basically that's the first form. Now, if you look at this form, you see it has a few questions. It has a question of what language you want service in. Yeah, so just select English. It asks you for a few questions. You're gonna go over these questions, fill the forms, your personal details, your full name. Yeah, fill that as your passport, fill your sex, your citizenship. You're going to fill out your current country of residence. You're going to fill that in, previous countries or territories of residence. Yeah, be sure to fill that in here. Country or territory where you're applying. If it's the same as the country of residence, yeah, be sure to say yes or no, depending on your specific situation. And then you fill out the rest of it. So you have marital status, and yeah, you fill this up and fill. Once you're done filling that, you get to the second part, which is just personal details continued. You fill out if you've been married or not before. You fill out the details of your previous spouse, and then that's if you have one, and then you fill out your languages, right? So you fill out your language, you fill out your passport information, national identity documents, you fill out your ID, your national ID, if you depending on your country of nationality. So absolutely, you should have your national ID. But if you have it, yeah, you're gonna have to say yes or no. So it's possible you don't have it and you just have your passport. That's totally fine. Go ahead with, of course, your passport is like, yeah, is the must-have. You must have a passport, right? Otherwise, you won't be able to travel. So the national ID isn't as important. If you don't have that, that's very fine. Just select no here if you don't have it. If you have it, you can go ahead and fill out the information. If you have a USPR card, yeah, you can go ahead and fill out the information. If you have a USPR card, yeah, go ahead and fill that in here. And then the last, is this the last one? No, not really. Let's see, the next section says your contact information. So you're going to enter in your address over here. And over here, you have more information, your phone number and all of that. You only fill the ones that are necessary. So usually you're looking at these red boxes mostly. But yeah, if you have information for the other ones, fill it out. And make sure it's consistent in every place where you've had information entered in. So just so you have that sanity of mind. And yeah, details of intended stay in Canada. So this is the next section, right? Or rather, the section that we've gotten to. Is asking you here for the name of your school. So what school did you gain admission to? What level will you be studying, right? So it's asking if it's primary, secondary, college, applied diploma. So you see there's a scroll button. Yeah, you can select whatever the course is. Yeah, so you want to just do this. So this is why it's also good to use the right document viewer. If you were to view this on a document viewer that isn't as sophisticated as Adobe, or yeah, you might not get all of these options, that you might not be able to fill the form out appropriately. So be sure to use something like Adobe to fill out this form, like Adobe Acrobat to fill out this form. So now they're asking you about your field of study. So be sure to enter that one in. I think field of study is one area where it's talking about the overall field, right? So it's not like the specific course that you're studying. So for example, you might be studying something very niche. Let's say you're studying energy systems engineering, and you're looking over here and you're not seeing energy systems engineering, right? So if you don't see that, you can just scroll down and look for you can check to see if there's engineering. Is there engineering here? Let's see. I don't see an engineering so far, which is weird. One weird thing about this form. So in a case like that where you're not seeing something that directly ties to what you're studying, you can actually just click order here because you're going to be uploading the document, right? But if you see something that's related to like science is applied, yeah, sure, go for it, right? When you upload the document, yeah, the whoever is reviewing your application will see the details of what school and what course. So this is not like the end. So you don't have to get stuck on this document. And this is why I wanted to walk you through the document and its quirks, right? Yeah, so this is one quirk to be aware of. It doesn't have all the courses that I can imagine. It just has some broad areas. So be sure to pick something that applies. And if you don't find anything, yeah, be sure to just use that button that says order, right? Yeah, just go ahead and use it. All right, now complete address of school in Canada. So you're going to find this on your school's website and also on your admission form. So be sure to enter that in. And then duration, expected duration of studies. So just enter in the expected duration of your studies, right? So you see how long is your studies for. Now this is just your school duration. Do not add in the duration of your postgraduate. Yeah, you intend to apply for a postgraduate work permit after school. That's fine, but at this point you're not there yet. So you're just applying for your student permit. So how long? If your school is 1 year, and as a matter of fact, you'll find this on your admission letter. So be sure to use it from there, right? Now, the cost of your tuition, you're going to enter this in. How much is your tuition? The funds available for your stay. So this is where you're going to enter in the amount of money that you have available for your stay. So you've heard of proof of funds. Make sure you check the website that talks about the Canadian proof of funds. Let me see if I can pull it up here for you. Proof of funds. For studies. Okay, so all right. So I'm just going to share my screen here. So we have proof of funds for study permit. Yeah, so be sure to check this website if you are confused as to how much you need. So make sure that whatever amount you're entering there is at least the amount of money you see on this table plus your tuition, right? I can't stress that enough. So be sure that depending on the province you're choosing, this is outside of Quebec. So for one student, you need at least 10,000 Canadian dollars. And then if you have family members, you're going to just do the mathematics, and you can see an example of that mathematics over here, depending on how many family members you have. So $10,000 is for like your estimated living expenses for 1 year. So be sure to sort of like have this at least in there, plus the cost of your actual tuition. So remember in your admission letter, you're going to get the school fees cost. So be sure to sum that together. Make sure you have minimum of that value. And then this question is asking like, who's going to pay for your tuition? Your parents, yourself, other. So be sure to answer that depending on your peculiar situation, right? And let's go on. What's the next one? Have you ever had a post-secondary school? Okay, education stuff. Just go ahead and fill this out. Now, employment. If you've been employed, go ahead and fill this up. Awesome. Like you just enter in the year, the current activity, and the employer name. So you do all of that, and then the next part, I think we're coming to the end of this document, is asking us to fill out background information. So this is just like health related information, because Canada cares about tuberculosis. So definitely you want to fill this up. This is one of the tests you're going to be doing in your medicals regardless. So you're just going to fill this out. fill up your status if you've ever been, if you've ever remained in Canada beyond your status, but you've never been to Canada. So in this case, you're probably going to just answer appropriately, right? I don't see any question here. That's interesting. So have you ever, okay, yeah, you fill this out, no, served, okay, no. Now, you want to be careful. So for people in Nigeria, you want to understand that your NYSC service is not this. So beware of that, right? Your NYSC service, as far as I've found out, is not this, right? So that's basically what I'll tell you. So be sure to be careful while filling this up if you're in Nigeria. All right, now so remember, be sure to be careful while filling up this number 4 and don't get don't mix it up with something else that it isn't. All right, are you or have you ever been a member of any political party, yada yada yada? Okay, so you're going to answer this appropriately, and when you're done, that kind of like wraps it up, right? So we're done with this form. Finally, you put in your you answer this. Do you consent to be contacted? Probably more than likely yes. No, it's up to you really. Now you enter your signature. By signature here, basically I think let's read more closely what it says. You can just enter your full name here. That's your full name. You could just enter that in here, or if you want to sign the signature, you can actually do that if you want to. So just enter a signature and date. You can use a full name as well. So once you're done, you're going to click this button that says validate. It's going to run some kind of validation, check if your form is complete, and it'll tell you if there are any errors. In my case, there are errors because I didn't fill it out. But then once you're done with that, you're done with filling this form out. So let's go back and continue where we left off with the actual application. So I'm sure you would have filled out this application. So I'm going to close this page, and for this financial verification, or rather I wouldn't close it just yet, but I'm going to put the link in the description just so you can check it and have it. So let's go back to the form. Here we are. So we are done with the application form, right? And the next part is your supporting documents. This section is super important. Like, it talks about the documents that you're going to need to back your application. Now, this is where you can really set yourself up to stand out, right? There is a way I'm gonna recommend you think about this. So the first thing I'm gonna say is you want to start with structure, right? You have these questions here, or rather, let's view them as sections. The first one says evidence of work requirement study, right? It means evidence that if you click this question mark, it says you must provide a letter or curriculum from your educational institution stating that work is a necessary requirement for completion of your studies. So if you have a core program, you're going to have this. So evidence of work related studies, you have this. You have letter of acceptance. That's another section. You have passport. You have proof of means of financial support. You have digital ID, digital photo, sorry. You have digital photo, and you have another form over here, right? And then underneath it, you have the next section, optional documents, right? You have a different form, and you have something called client information if you want to provide more information, like optional section, right? So these are the things we have to work with. So the first thing I'm going to recommend you do is I'm going to recommend you create a folder here, right? So just to tell you, you want to be organized. I'd like you to take it from the first point of view of your organization matters a lot, right? Think about that. So I recommend you create a folder, call it my application document, something like that. And after creating this folder, I'd like you to create subfolders inside of there and try to get organized on your local computer before you start uploading anything to this portal, right? Because that way you will really give you that opportunity to actually think and review things and make sure that you're putting your best foot forward, right? So the first section, the first folder you're going to have is evidence of work requirements. So if your program is one that requires work because we said our program requires work permit. So you're gonna have to submit requires work as a, not work permit now, sorry. If our program requires work as a part of our study, right? So I remember I mentioned this has to do with co-op. So an evidence of this would usually be found in your admission letter, either on your admission letter itself or a different letter the school gives you. So just check your admission letter. Usually there's going to be a line that says you require the ability to work, yada yada yada. So that's what you're looking for at this part. So create a folder called work evidence of work stuff, and then just put that file in that folder. Then the next section, it says letter of acceptance, right? For letter of acceptance, you have your acceptance letter given to you by the school. So you're going to want to actually also put that in. So letter of acceptance, just create in that folder still. Go to that folder, create a folder called letter of acceptance, and put in your acceptance letter in there, right? So whether your admission letter, your acceptance letter, yeah, this is your acceptance letter, put that in here. Now the next section says passport. So you're going to have a folder that says passport, and you're going to upload your passport. Now there are so what you're going to do is this. Usually for your passport, let's read what the instructions say. It says submit a legible copy of your travel document if you have a passport, and you have to submit the passport and the page that shows your dates of birth and country of origin and all of that. And you also need to submit any pages with stamps, visas, or markings. It means more than one pages. So let's say you've traveled to a couple of places, you're gonna have more than one pages. And there's a tool that I like so much that's actually free online that you can use to sort of like do this. So the first thing you're going to want to do with your passport is you're going to scan all the pages that have markings on your passport, including the first page of a passport, that's your bio data page. And then you can come to a website like I Love PDF. There's this website here called I Love PDF, and you're gonna click their merge functionality, right? So over here, when you scan that each document of your passport, you want to submit every document that you submit as a single document, right? So coming back to this checklist, you can see it says upload file. It didn't say upload files, right? So it's very important that you know, because when you scan these documents, let's say your acceptance letter your acceptance letter is going to be just one PDF. But in the case of your passport here, by the time you scan your passport, you might have them in different files and they might not be joined as one PDF. So in that case, you want to merge them. So you come to a website like this, I Love PDF, and you basically upload all the PDF files here, and you basically merge it for you. Like you select them in the order you want them to show up, and you click a merge button, and basically that would merge all the documents for you. So once you do that, you take that document and put it back in your folder. Remember I said create a folder for passport. So in that folder, of course, the first image you want there would be your data, your bio data page on your passport, followed by the other pages where you have other markings and visa and all of that. So now once you're done with your passport, the next one is proof of means of financial support. Now this one usually trips a lot of people up. Now how do you beat this system, right? Or rather, how do you make sure you have the best foot forward here? So proof of means of financial support, right? If you read what it says temporary residents, if you're visiting Canada, you must prove that you can support yourself, your family members who will be with you while you're in Canada. And then it says provide as many of these documents as you can, right? So now it's asking you for a couple of things here. It says you need a bank statement for the last 4 months. So as many of these, it means you can provide one or more. Of course, you want more documents, more than just one document. So these are different options of documents that you can use. One of the options are a bank statement for the last 4 months. This is probably even required, funny enough. But although it's just one option, it's not like it's just one option. The next one here is a bank draft in convertible currency. Pay stubs, this like maybe you're working, where you're working, the pay stubs of where you're working. Next one is your employment letter. This kind of like an employment verification letter, or an employment reference letter. And the next one is proof of assets of a business, right? Proof of payment of tuition, accommodation fees. Now, this can be important because when you pay your fees, you get a receipt. Adding that to this section is critical in proving that you have sufficient resources, financial resources, to foot your bills, because you basically just proved that you've paid for like the first year or something, like, and that's really good. And it shows them that you're not going to be desperate. So the next one, tax report. Yeah, if you have tax reports and they are looking good, absolutely add those. Proof of student loans. So if you took a loan from a financial institution for your studies, absolutely include that here. And then you have a letter from the person providing you with money. So if you have someone providing you with money or an institution providing you with money, the letter from them, put it here. Proof of funding paid from within Canada. If you have a scholarship, so if you have like Canadian funding, be sure to provide that evidence. And then proof of Canadian bank account in your name if money has been transferred to Canada. So if you have money in Canada and it is your money, it's your name, that's, of course, it means the bank account, you have to create a bank account, Canadian bank account. If that money is there, make sure the money has been transferred onto that Canadian bank account and you'll be good. Then, so these are the requirements for temporary residents. So these are the ones we want to look at because we are not applying as permanent residents, so we don't really care about the bottom part of this. So these are just giving us different options that we have at our disposal to ensure we can maximize our chances and be approved for our visa. So I'm excited about this. Now, you have different options, right? Something I've done in the past, or rather that has been done in the past by a couple of people that I know, is they use 3-4, use 5 documents, depends on you, but it's really up to you. So one, the bank statement. So let's say your parents are sponsoring your education, you can get bank statements from your parents or your uncle, whoever is sponsoring your education. Get the bank statements, get the bank statements that prove they have the proof of the funds that you need. That's the minimum value for the proof of funds. Remember, the proof of funds, like I mentioned earlier, is at least $10,000 here for one person, plus the cost of your tuition for 1 year. So this $10,000 basically is the money that the Canadian government estimates that someone living in Canada needs to survive for 1 year in Canada. So that's why it's important, right? So basically stuff like this is it doesn't include your tuition, definitely. So this is money that they've estimated that, okay, let's say this should technically take care of your housing and feeding for like 1 year, right? So you need a minimum of this. That's literally what they have said, right? So based on this, as you've seen this, it means you need to have at least $10,000 plus whatever your tuition is going to cost for 1 year. So if your tuition for 1 year is $15,000, it means you need to have $25,000 at least. If you're by at least, I mean minimum, right? Minimum, you should be able to prove up to that amount, right? Now, if your tuition is $20,000, of course, you're going to say $20,000 plus $10,000. That's $30,000 they have to prove. So pretty much, guys, that's kind of like how the math works. Now, if you have that money, or your whoever is sponsoring your education has that money, now what you're going to need to do is you're going to print out your bank statement or statements that contain this, just in case the money is spread out across different banks. You're going to get those bank statements for 4 months if you're using bank statements. Remember, on this website we saw clearly that they say your bank statements must be for the past 4 months, right? So you want to have this. So if you just had that money like today, you probably don't want to make your application right now. You probably want to wait for the next 4 months so that it shows that that money has been in your account for a while, because you're going to need to show your bank statements for at least 4 months. And you don't want a situation where they see is zero balance and then suddenly they basically think you just got that money coming in today. So you want to make sure that you have a bank statement that can reflect that you've had that money for at least 4 months. So that's one. And then the second one that you could use, of course, you're going to need to have a letter. The second one you can use is a letter from your family right? So this is in addition to the bank statement. So if it's your family that's providing support for you, definitely they should write. You're gonna get a letter that just says we are supporting a child, we are supporting this person, my brother or whoever. If it's your uncle, I'm supporting my niece, my nephew, to study in Canada, yada yada yada. He'll describe the details and describe his financial capacity and capabilities and his willingness to support you to pursue the course of your choice and further your studies, right? So once he says that, then of course his bank statement, the same rules that I mentioned just earlier for the bank statement applies, right? So he provides that. Then another thing you should do is, if you're working at a place, get your company, right? Get your manager to write a letter for you that basically supports your schooling. You can ask them, like, I like to go school. I like to get a letter to support my education, right? Saying that as I go out to school, upon coming back, you're willing to accept me. Now, one of the things they look for in proof of funds, um, the proof of funds document you provide, it's kind of like they use it to find out if you have enough funds. So what I just talked about here is not directly related to proof of funds. So we can talk about this later on. So for proof of funds, your bank statement is there, your employment letter, if you have that, use that. And in that employment letter is just your employment reference letter. Then your payment receipts, if you've paid your fees, your acceptance fee, all of that, be sure to put that in there. So these are documents you can choose from. So just pick the document, and remember what I mentioned to you earlier when I said, when you have the document, be sure to attach them, right? Attach these documents together and make sure it matches the amount. So we've just talked about your proof of funds. So once you have these things together, attach them together. And what you want to do, as a rule of thumb, I'd advise you create a page, a single blank page. Just create like an A4 paper. And this A4 paper, you're going to have a description of what document you have attached. And this A4 should just have a title of proof of means of financial support. And then it should have like a little table of contents that says included. And then you can have like some columns that just number one, talk about what is included, right? Remember, we have to be organized, because one of the things that it's good for you to do is to make it as easy as possible for the immigration officer to be able to navigate your documents and understand what each document is, and be able to make a decision without the hitches of being confused as to what you have submitted. So you having that little glossary at the top of your document can go a long way to make their job easier. And if their job is easier, you increase your chances of getting a yes to your application. So definitely be sure of making sure you can make the job easier. So you're going to create a first blank page that has what I just told you. You have a title of what it is, proof of funds, and then underneath it you have, like in that same doc page, you have the list of what you have. So you have bank statement 1, bank statement 2, pay stubs, that's payment stubs from your office. Number 3, you have bank statements from your receipts from your tuition that you've paid. You have, let's say you have properties, evidence of those things, assets, like whatever it is, just put those things in there. And then underneath it, now remember I said underneath it, you can then attach different documents in the segments that you've mentioned above. So that way, anyone reading this will basically see the segment. Now, you have the big title that talks about everything. Then you have a document that now says bank statement. And then underneath, you have the bank statement, right? You have the bank statement. And then you have another A4 document, a single plain paper that just says the next section, pay stubs. And then another section. So for each of the sections, you just divide them. That way it's easy to read through. Like, you can imagine how easy it is to read a document and see a title in front of it, and knowing that, okay, all the documents I'm going to be seeing here has to do with this. And then you see another title, and all the documents I'm going to be seeing below this have to do with this. That makes their work a lot easier and makes it comprehensive. And it saves you the stress of they being confused as to what exactly they are looking at. And if you can remove that burden from them, you have just made your life a bit easier. That's you've reduced one hurdle of you getting a no. So basically you want to be sure to do that. Now the next section is digital photo. Right, so for digital photo, let's see what this is talking about. It's talking about the passport. So there are some requirements for your digital photo. So be sure to take a passport. You can go to a um so this is temporary residence. You can select this button to see more details about the passport, and just go to like your passport store, a passport office where you can take, like, when I say passport, I mean digital photo passport, right? Not your international passport here. So just take these requirements to any place. Many of them know how to do these things, so just ask them, and yeah, you take passport and you scan it and put in that folder, right? So remember what I said: don't upload any document. Put everything in the folder that you've created for it, right? Now the next one, we have another form here: family information. So this form is kind of like the last one. It is a PDF form. Apparently, this one opens up in our Acrobat web. So I'm just going to glance through it here. Be sure to use your PDF, your actual PDF viewer to fill this up. So this just has family information. It talks about your marital status, your personal information. If you have a spouse, her information, your father, your mother, and yeah, your children. So if you have kids, you're applying on behalf of your children. So be sure to fill all of that up. And then when you're done, you sign the document. So that's the IM5645. So that's the next document on the list. And then the next one, which I think is the last form, under optional document, you have application for a temporary resident visa made outside Canada. So I'm going to just select this. So let's say you're outside Canada. So we are waiting for this to open up. Whenever you see this, it means there's trouble. It means maybe the document's a bit more sophisticated. So just download the document and open it up um, in your local viewer. All right, guys. So I've downloaded that document to my file here, as you can see, and it just contains information about your application. Right? It says you are applying from outside of Canada. It's asking for your full name. You enter that information. Military service, dude. Remember, if you're applying from Nigeria, this is not NYSC, isn't military service, so be sure to not add it here. Now, have you ever witnessed or participated in EU treatment? Okay, answer that question. And then, are you a member of of associations or organizations? So are you a member of organizations that have advocated for violence? Answer that question. You probably want to be answering no to all of these. Government positions. Yeah, you answer that question. Previous travel. So now you're going to answer the question. Now, this question says, since the age of 18, during the past 5 years, whichever is more recent, right? So since you were 18, that's since you were 18, or during the past 5 years. So depending on which is more recent, you're going to use that. They're asking if you've traveled to any other country apart from that of your country of current citizenship or current residence, right? So you basically answer that question if you've um visited any other country. And of course, if this is not enough, there's an option here to add more rows. So be sure to just click it and add more rows. So once you're done, you click validate, and yeah, put the document back in your folder, right? So coming back to our application here, I'm going to close this tab here, and we are almost done. We are here and they're asking us for the last part, which is optional client information. So this client information is very important. um Two reasons why they reject visa applications a lot is: one, insufficient proof of funds, and two, insufficient guarantee of that you're going to leave Canada after your studies. So let's talk about this. How can you get your application not rejected based on those two grounds that we just talked about? Like, how can you ensure that your application is not rejected because of those? So let's see what this client information is talking about. They said if you would like to provide more information about your application that you have not already provided, you can attach a letter of explanation to your application. So now this section, allows us to do a lot of things, right? It gives you a fighting chance. Number one, your proof of financial support, right? You've proved that you have money. That's fine. That's essential. But if you notice in these forms, they didn't ask us to prove that you're going to return to Canada. You're going to return back home after your studies, which is important. Even if your hope goal that you want to work, you want to come to Canada to study as a pathway to immigration, you don't have to tell them that. Now, the basis is this. The reason why they are critical about that is because they think about it this way. If you came to Canada and your plans to be in Canada do not work out on the long term, they don't want you to become a liability on the system. You don't want to come over here and start getting money that's meant for the people who are displaced, or people who are the beggars on the streets, or people who are less privileged, and be a burden to their social system. So they want to know that provided you come to the country to study, if things don't work out for you after that study, you have a home to return to. You have people that can accept you. This is one of the reasons why when we filled the form and we filled that section for your proof of funds, I said you should include a letter that talked about if it's your uncle or your parents that sponsoring you, you want them to talk about that their intention to sponsor you, like how you just give a description that they are willing to sponsor you, they're invested in you, furthering your education, and they're happy to see to it that you go through school, finish school, and come back and be they go through school, finish school, and come back and be excellent, and be of huge help to them and to the society at large. So you want to see those two sections. There's a proof of funds along, as well as the final client information, and as well as the proof of willingness to return back to your country, right? Like if we call it that, see them as intertwined, right? So now you're gonna have some information in your proof of funds, and then underneath, under the client information, apart from you putting up your explanation. So let's say you have anything that is not very straightforward for you, like maybe you're expecting a baby, just different things that could complicate your status or whatever, or like things explain. You always want to give more information in this case, right? You don't want to leave anything to chance where they start asking questions and maybe reject your application. Give more information in this particular case. So you want to put that letter of explanation, right? So apart from letter of explanation, explaining anything you need to explain, if you have any, you want to make sure you put in reasons why you're going to return to your country. So, for example, a letter from your employer, right? So, in fact, as a matter of fact, what I do most of the time is I put those as part of like what I help people that I've worked with in the past do is we put it in both places, right? Put in proof of financial support, put in the proof of funds. But in the financials, we try to put financials first, and we just put those later. Then in the other information, we put that as well. So you want to have a letter from your company if you're working anywhere saying that they're in support of you traveling to Canada to further your education, and they are willing to accept you back, and they're happy to have you back when you come back to make an impact in the organization. That would be fantastic. That's just they telling the Canadian government that, hey, look, this guy, we're in support of him going to improve himself. When he comes back, we have our arms open to accept him back to the organization. Of course, when you come back, if it means you have to apply, that's totally fine. Just get a letter like that from your manager. That's one. Two, another way you can prove this is if you have a family, right? You could write some statements to say, oh, okay, you have a family. All of this, like you can write something like that, your wife, children, and all of that. You can put that as part of the letter of explanation, right? If you want to do that. But then you have to be smart as to how you're doing this. Now, remember, the work one is very important. If your parents, the one from your job is one. If your parents or your uncle is sponsoring you, get a letter from him saying that they are willing, even if the money is your money, let him write a letter saying I'm willing and happy to sponsor this person, or to in support of this person. um I'm in support of this person traveling, like even if they're not sponsoring, like they're in support of you traveling, and to further your education, and they are happy to support you while you're there, even if all the money is going to be coming from you. You're just getting a letter from other voices to that show support for your studies. It means it gives a signal to the government that yes, when you come back, there are people that are happy to accept you, because you do have people that are happy to accept you back to your country. You want to show this. You don't want to look like someone who's trying to run away. So make sure you get that. So I've just talked about two viable means, things you can use, right? Um, yeah, and then if you have property, if you have a business, be sure to include something from your business that talks about why you're going to return. So at least you should have a minimum of two things in that client information section that explain why you're going to return. One, letter from your company. Two, letter from your family that explain why you're going to return. Now, this is critical. And that way you'll be able to bypass that issue of people being rejected because of evidence that they're going to return to the country. And now, of course, if you're getting a letter from a company, it should be in your company's letterhead, right? Letter from family, of course, that letter should be there, and it should even be part of your you should have that letter before the pay stubs that your family will be giving you. So yeah, so that's basically it for that. And if you have all of that done, awesome, you are ready. So remember, get those things organized in your document, and then once you're done with everything, it's time for you to actually submit your application, right? You submit your application, and or rather, you upload your documents. Once you upload the files, now remember when I were filling out before we got to this part of the form, I talked about how that we're going to explore something to improve the speed of your application, right? So there's this process called medicals, right? You can do an upfront medicals, or you can wait to be asked for medicals. So these forms, there's no medical form here. So if you want your application to be slightly faster, um do go ahead and do an upfront medicals. So go to a designated hospital for the medical test. Go and do it. When you do it there, it means you've done the medicals, right? Get the medicals. That's the IME. They'll give you an IME form. You're gonna have like an IME number for your upfront medicals, and then when you come over here, you basically upload the documents that they give to you. You upload it here. So this way, once they get to your application and they get to the point where they usually ask for your medicals, because they see that document with it's an IME number, right? And they see that it matches, they see that document to your IME number. They're basically going to check their system. I remember that question while filling the form where they asked us if we had a medical. I think they asked us if we had done a medical test in the last 12 months. You say yes to that question. Once you do that, because they see your form already attached, you're going to attach the form right here to your client information. So remember what I told you about you organizing your documents? We have one overall PDF airplane sheet where you just talk about the title and you give a list of what is expected below in that section. So yeah, you have that title, you have the list of the different documents you've uploaded as part of that section, and then underneath it you have your the different subtitles for the different sections of what you actually upload, right? You're gonna have those sections in this client information empire, and that's what's gonna make it easy for whoever is reviewing your application to easily navigate and understand what you have there. So things for your proof of funds, things for your work stuff, you're basically going to have it there. So you just call it, the title will be something like client information. And then under the letters, you just say letter from parents, letter from work, family, letter from whoever, like if you have documents to prove anything, letter from bank showing ownership of property or something like that, you basically can put all of those other things in there if they are going to prove your return, right? And then you also have your letter of explanation. You also have what else? You have any other piece of information, and then you also have your medicals. So you have your medical test results, right? You have that as a subsection, and that way you upload it, and this is how you actually submit your medicals. Okay, so basically what usually happens is they ask you for your medicals and you have a 30-day period to submit your medicals. Now, if you did an upfront medicals, it could save you that time because they see that you already uploaded the result, they check it is valid. They might ask you, you just answer them on email with your IME number and they check it. If they say that is valid, you're good. Now, um, it saves time because if they see that it's valid, they don't ask you to do a medicals and give you a 30-day time frame to do it because you already have one within the past 12 months, which is fantastic for you, right? Because medicals are only valid for 1 year, that's 12 months, right? So I recommend highly that you consider doing an upfront medicals. So when you go to the venue or the center for the medicals in Nigeria, I think there's a body called IOM and there are other ones, other establishments that do other clinics, other places that do like the medical test. So just go there and ask them for an upfront medicals. Like go to where they do their appointment booking. Some of them is online, some of them is physical. Go there and ask for upfront medicals, and they'll tell you what to do. And when you select upfront medicals, you select is for study, right? But make sure it's upfront. So don't do the IME medical, which is a request from the CIC when the immigration asks you to do medicals. Don't go with that. Just do upfront medicals for your student permit. That's what you're going to be looking to do, and it will save you potentially 30 days of wait time. All right, awesome. So we have, with that out of the way, we are done with the documents that you need to upload. We've gone over every single document here, and I believe you're feeling confident about this, and you should be because you got this, right? So now the next section is the fees, right? So you're gonna have to pay your fees. There are different things you can use here. If you have like a dollar Mastercard and you have dollars in the account, I think you can use that to pay. If you have someone in Canada, they can help you pay these $235. By now, you probably have figured out how to pay fees in Canada, because you should have paid like your acceptance fee and all of that. So just make sure you make this payment, and once you're done, you've submitted the application. You submitted the application. So that's it. And with that out of the way, you wait. So guys, with that out of the way, you're done with your application. Remember, the folder system we created was so we could stay organized and have multiple opportunities to review our applications before we actually submit it. So it's good you did that, and then from that folder, you submit your application, pay your fees, and boom, you're done. Now you gotta wait, right? So the application process, there are usually timelines, different timelines for the student visa application process. You're gonna be communicated as things progress, right? You can always come back to the page. You're gonna see an application status on the page, on the home page that we visited, right? And yeah, you're gonna see the status of your application and how far with that application as it's progressing, right? So once you see all of these things, yeah, you keep track of your application, right? Typically it can take anywhere from 3 months. I think COVID added a bit to it. Usually it was faster, but then after COVID, it's, I think because of the backlogs and all of that, it started taking a bit longer in terms of like time to complete the application. So you should expect anything within 3 to 5 months for your application to be completed. So that's really it. Now, while you're waiting for your application, you can check some forums online. I can link a few of them down for you, but just Google like some forums where people talk about applications and all of that. But your source of truth for information is really the portal. So the way the process is going to be is once they look at your application, they process everything and everything is done, they're going to ask you for your passport. They're going to make a passport request to you, and you're basically going to submit your international passport using the courier service to where your is going to be the counterfoil will be attached and it's going to be stamped, right? So pretty much that process might take anywhere around 1 to 2 weeks, and depending on how far away that place is and how efficiently the courier services work. So that's the process of your student application. And so thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed that, if that helped you, if that gave you an insight to this process, kindly hit that like button, subscribe, and share with your friends. Don't forget to do that. It helps this channel out. We want to see this channel grow. So thank you so much for watching. See you in the next one. Next, we're going to be talking about how to come to Canada as a worker. Yes, is it possible to come to Canada on a work permit? It is. As a matter of fact, that's how I came to Canada a couple of years ago. So watch out for that video. See you soon. Take care and bye-bye.